Hello. Okay, so I am going through my CD collection, deciding what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep because I need to downsize with stuff. And we have something called Spotify. So I'm just going to power through these. Maybe it'll bring you down the path of nostalgia. Starting strong with 2004's Autobiography by Ashley Simpson. Everybody who was anybody at that time knew that album. Every song was a hit. This is 2002's Boom Catalog 1 by Boom Catalog. It really bothered me that their second album was not called Boom Catalog 2. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know how Adele did like 1921, 25, 30? I loved that album, this one, Boom Catalog 1, and Taryn Manning, who's famous for like acting for 8 Mile, Crossroads, Orange is the New Black, she said that they recorded it, her and her brother, on a PlayStation 2. And as a little preteen, I didn't know what that meant, but I was so impressed by it. Blackout, 2007 Britney, is unstoppable. This is probably her most cohesive album. Just from start to finish, it is an entire package. And in her autobiography, which I read in one sitting, which I've never done before ever, she said Gimme More is probably the least good music video she's ever made. And I disagree. I think that video is genius, and she is just being humble. This is Bloom by Troye Sivan. I love when a gay makes it to mainstream media, mainstream pop music. And this album was on a loop when it came out. I loved this album. I will say I forgot about it for a while, but when his new album came out, when I was waiting for the new one to come out, when Rush was out but not the album, I revisited that and I was like, oh my god, I love this. I know that J-Lo is not everyone's favorite person right now, but I have to come out and say I am a J-Lo fan. I love J-Lo. I haven't watched the movie because I don't pay for Netflix, but I love the new album. I didn't buy it because I don't buy CDs anymore, unless it's Britney's, but anyway, I digress. If you used to be a J-Lo fan and then somewhere along the way you fell off and you're like, oh, I hate her now, I want to challenge you to listen to one of these 3 songs from this album. The title track, What Is Love, Until It Beats No More, or what's number 11? Starting Over. If you listen to those 3 songs and you still hate her, then maybe you really have outgrown her. But I think she's actually a great singer, great musician. I don't know, whatever. Because whatever. Speaking of great musicians, though, like, this is the first celebrity death that, like, actually really affected me. Like, I was, other celebrity, I always get sad when people die, but, like, this was the first celebrity that I had that parasocial connection with, and when she died, I was just, like, frozen. I was just, like, we are never gonna get another Amy Winehouse album. And what's crazy is when I got sober at 27. And she died at 27 for obvious complications to addiction. And that whole year, there were so many, like, thoughts that I was just like, wow, if she could have just, like, made the change, Katy Perry, I met her. She signed this. Can you see? It says Matt. Do not freaking call me Matt. But she didn't know any better. Love, Katy. It was a really weird encounter. Great album, though. Jeannie Ortega. Do you remember Jeannie Ortega? She had one hit song. It was called Crowded, featuring Papoose. And this was on Hollywood Records, so the same record deal that Hilary Duff had. And I feel like that was Hollywood Records trying to, like, go hood. It's like, oh, she's from Brooklyn. It's a good album, though. It's cute. Standout track, Can You? Is like Can You, like letter U. It's really good. And then So Done was supposed to be the next single, but then she did track 8 for a movie. It's Our Time. And I think that decision was actually the beginning of the end of that album. Because then she switched to Christian music. And I don't know. Britney's Greatest Hits, amazing. Cher, I don't have every Cher album, but I will say this album is so freaking good from beginning to end. If you do get it, you want to get the deluxe version. I think this was the Target brand. Target, like, you know how Target does like, oh, one or two extra songs. Because the Woman's World Rehab remix, but the E in Rehab is a 3, not an E. It's so good. And it is not on Spotify. And it just like I can't get rid of that one because of that one specific remix. Britney by Britney. This was probably my first. I mean, I loved Britney from Baby One More Time, and then I loved Oops, I Did It Again. But when this album came out, I was a changed human. Like, I literally, the second that I heard I'm a Slave for You, I became the next level of myself. Fun fact, I wasn't allowed to listen to Britney at home. And so for Christmas one year, I saw like a little present under the tree that was obviously a CD. And it said my name. And I was like, oh my God, my parents actually bought me Britney. Like, I'd been wanting this. I freaking opened it on Christmas Day. And it was Destiny's Child. And like, before you come for me, I already had that Destiny's Child CD. So I'm just like, what am I going to do with this? So I found my way to the mall, and then I traded it for this. You know, of course, I didn't tell my father. Speaking of Britney, I do have every Britney CD. Some of them I have duplicates, like where there were deluxe editions and stuff. I held a Femme Fatale listening party, but I didn't tell the people that it was a Femme Fatale listening party. So we invited, I like grew up in the East Side, so we had like stoners, we had like a very like mixed group of people because it was my friends, my sister's friends, my brother's friends, and then friends of friends and boyfriends and girlfriends, and it was actually a pretty big party. Well, so I heard. I blacked out before anything. But anyway, so my sister told me that we played it all night. And then somewhere during the night, I guess someone requested that we change the CD, and I'm like, how dare you? So I got mad and threw it out the window because I didn't have a screen because that's how I would smoke in my house. And then so my sister lovingly went and picked up the CD from the middle of the street and hid it until the next morning when I asked where it was. So every time I look at it and this little tear, it reminds me of the memories that I don't have. So for a long time, I said that Joanne was my favorite Lady Gaga album, but like honestly, the more that I think about it, I actually listen to this less than the others. I think I just love the aesthetic. Like, I am a denim queen through and through, and just seeing Gaga in those denim shorts and crop tops, like, I love like, I'm literally wearing a crop top and denim. Of course, it's a Britney crop top, but okay. So speaking of Gaga, I don't know if I should say this, but okay, I used to party. I feel like I've already like hinted at my sobriety. There is something on her arm, and I'm not going to go into detail. And I'm afraid to do anything with it. But I will say that's how we used to get by. Because it was portable and we could just, you know, roll up a 20 and whatever. This is such a good album. Like, this is probably the only, like, Reba album I have. Like, I have her greatest hits and the singles and the number ones and stuff. But, like, I think this is the only studio album I have. And I would honestly say this is probably in my top 15 favorite albums in the entire world. It is, like, I remember in the beginning of the pandemic when I was here with Grandma, I played it and I was just, like, hooked. And so it was, like, the only thing I listened to for, like, 4 days straight. The first song, Secret, is so good. And, like, I don't even know what the singles were. I know He Gets That For Me was the single because that's how I heard about it. I remember when I had to watch music videos on television, and I would like flip back and forth between MTV Hits and then the country station. And I would specifically only go to the country station waiting for that video to come on. And it wasn't like a huge hit, so it didn't come on that often. Lindsay Lohan's debut album is actually super solid, and I'm so happy that she's making a comeback, but I'm a little bit sad that she is not really excited about getting into music. Like, I'm here for the movies, but I'm not a movie person. Like, I don't even have Netflix, so I had to, which I'm grateful for. I asked a couple of my new friends, and I was like, hey, can we do a movie night? You know, but it has to be at your house because you have Netflix. So we're gonna watch her movie this weekend. I just wish she would sing again. Like, of all the Disney stars, excluding Britney, I don't think of Britney as a Disney star, even though she did the Mickey Mouse Club. So I don't categorize her there. Britney is her own category. Of the other Disney stars, Lindsay, Hillary, Selena, Miley, so on and so forth, Lindsay's music was my favorite. Avril Lavigne, which I feel like Lindsay was a little bit kind of like, sorry, I just disassociated for a second. I saw myself and I was like, that's not me, but it is. Okay, so this is a good album. My Happy Ending is really great. Okay, so Sporty Spice, she released 2 solo albums. The first one did pretty well, like really well actually. The second one did not. And then she left her record company and made her own, Red Girl Records. Like, this is her 3rd album, but her first one on her own record label. It's kind of rock. It's a little rock. She stayed in that rock realm for a minute, and she talked about it in her memoir, where she kind of wanted to, like, separate herself from the Sporty Spice persona. But recently she has kind of found pride in it again in the last, half a decade or so. So Pink's Funhouse, this is her 5th album, but this is also one of those albums, I would say probably top 5. Actually, I should have thought about that, and maybe by the end of the video I'll have a list, but probably one of my top 5 favorite albums ever. So cohesive, so freaking emotional and raw. And I have this theory that a lot of my favorite pop girlies, not Britney. Britney doesn't. I'm like, Britney's everywhere. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 piles, and Britney's in all of them. But anyway, a lot of times I feel like my favorite albums are right before people have babies. Does that make sense? Because right after this, she had Willow. Jerry Halliwell, Ginger Spice. This was her 3rd and seemingly final solo album. And it's a little bit of a mess, to be honest. And I say that lovingly because she was in this position where she wanted to be recognized as a real musician, not as like this gimmicky pop star. And she even made a documentary about it. And we get some of that. And so I remember I was dating for like 6 years, a trained singer. And I remember I played that, like, it was early on when we were dating. And so I played this for him, and her first song, Passion, came on. He was like, no, this is music. And I was like, oh my God, he likes my music. As I'm, like, taking credibility for this, 35-year-old woman who I had never met. But it was taste. I had taste. That being said, she has some of the hardest hitting dance songs on this album. Love Never Loved Me. Like, I mean, that is still every year in my top Spotify, Wrapped. Not the top 5, but the top 100 for sure. Should have been a single, Jerry. Should have been a single. Okay, Madonna. Like a Virgin. This is actually an incredible album. It came out way before I was born, but she looks incredible. She sounds incredible. My favorite song is Dress You Up and Love Don't Live Here Anymore. The emotions in that. Okay, so I was talking about Pink earlier, but when my first introduction to Pink was when she was promoting her first album, Can't Take Me Home, which is somewhere here. I hated her. I hated her because at that time, me and my 3 brothers had to have our head shaved. It was like the stupid rule because we're boys. And Pink, this famous woman, by choice, cut all her hair off. And my little tiny child head could not wrap around that. And so I did not want anything to do with her. And then so one of these trips to the record store, my mom bought this CD because I don't even know which song she liked, but she heard a song on the radio and she bought the CD. And then she played it, and I didn't see the CD. So I heard the music, but didn't know it was Pink. I was like, wow, I love this. And it was like, by then I was like in my angsty, middle school. So it was probably like Just Like a Pill. Actually, it was. It was Just Like a Pill. That was my favorite then. But then, so I was like, oh, can I borrow this? And then I just never gave it back. But what really got me, dude, is Family Portrait. Like, to this day, that is my most watched music video. Like, that and Sober from the other album, Funhouse. Sober is a really good video, too. Ginger Spice was my favorite Spice Girl, but this is my favorite Spice Girl album. Most people don't even know this exists. Okay, so they did have 2 singles from here. Holler, great video. And Let Love Lead the Way, also a cute video. But my favorite song is Right Back at Ya, and it is to Jerry. It's kind of like a diss track a little bit, and Mel B's rap in that song is incredible. I also really like Weekend Love, which is also carried heavily by Mel B's rap. So if you get a chance, honestly, like, just stream that album. It's a great album. Ashlee Simpson's 3rd album is, in my opinion, her best album. She continued to mature. Actually, I can't say continued because I didn't like her 2nd album. Well, I didn't love it, There's one song, I'll get to that later, but this album is solid. Track 5, what's it called? Little Miss Obsessive. Oh my God, it is so good. It is so good. Like, literally, that one, you know those albums where, like, there's one song that is so good that it automatically makes it a good album? Little Miss Obsessive is that song. But also, it's a great album. I will say, though, when this came out, because I followed her very, very closely, I loved Out of My Head. And when this cover was released, I was so mad that I didn't buy it. I didn't buy the CD because I hated the cover. Because I was like, you are so pretty. I'm sorry, but I am a product of the 90s. So this is a mentality. I was like, you are so thin right now. Like, you look so good. Why would you waste an album cover on this? What is this? Like, even if that was the cover, I would have bought it. But anyway, so, I mean, it was years later, like probably 5 or 6 years later. I'm not even kidding. And I listened to it one time through. And by this time, the only song I had heard was Out of My Head. So every song was new after that. And I was just like, oh my God. But, I think that's the universe kind of like telling me that I wasn't ready for it. Because maybe I wouldn't have understood Little Miss Obsessive before having my first partner. But after I had my first partner, it made sense. Bonnie McKee. She follows me on TikTok. But this album also changed my life. I know I've said that. The reason I keep saying it is because I used to have so many albums, CDs, but every time that I moved in my 20s, which was like 5 times, like pretty much every time they raised the rent, I left. And actually, that's not true because I lived with family. I didn't mean to lie, but I kind of made that up. I don't know why I said that. That only happened once. When they raised the rent, we left. Anyway, I had a subscription to the music magazine Blender, and I read an interview with Bonnie McKee, and I saw these super amazing photos of this like redheaded runaway chick in a cheap, raunchy hotel, and I was in love. I never heard any of her music before, but I went to the record store and bought this CD because of that interview. And I have become a lifelong stan. I have followed her through and through. She used to follow me on Twitter, and like I deleted my Twitter and I got so sad. It was like, Brittany followed me too, both of them. And I was really sad to delete it, but I was too addicted. And I started posting things that I regretted, and like, it just, can I show this? Well, I guess if it's on a CD. This is a Kesha. Kesha's Rainbow. Amazing. Great album. I'm so glad it made it to number 1. I don't have her CD Gag Order, but that is one of my top 3 albums ever. It's not here because I never bought it, which actually maybe is not great to say because it like peaked at I think 186 on the Billboard, but it is art. It is straight up art. If you are still watching, and if you're a Kesha fan but don't know Gag Order, do yourself a favor and watch the music video for Only Love Can Save Us Now. Melanie C. Sporty Spice's debut album, featuring the 2 hits, I Turn to You, Hex Hector Radio Mix, and Never Be the Same Again, featuring Lisa Left Eye Lopez. Rest in peace. Solid album. My favorite song from this is actually not a single, and it's called Feel the Sun. So good. I didn't get it until I got older and after, experiencing my own depression. But if you like read it, it's a freaking poem. Okay, so I have both copies of this. I actually prefer the one with the pastel color, which is the standard edition, but it's only 10 songs. And my one of my favorite songs is on the deluxe, so obviously I kind of lean into this one. It's Hold On Tight, which it was the first song she wrote for this album. She wrote every song on this album, by the way. It was the first song she wrote for this album, and it was just her and her friend playing a guitar on her living room floor. And I am just like, could you have, because a lot of people talk so much crap about Britney's album. This is Britney Jean, by the way, if you don't know. And if she had just, I think the problem with this album is that she included will.i.am. And no hate to will.i.am. I think they've done other things that are great together. The lyrics on this album are some of the deepest lyrics. And I think that if she had approached this with more of like a Sia or like an acoustic, it would have been a completely different experience. And to be honest, my little mind is still hoping that can happen. I don't know why I don't have the CD case, but this is Christina Aguilera's Bionic. I'm not a huge Christina Aguilera fan. I love her voice. I don't love her music, but that's a good album. There are good songs on it. Brooke Hogan's second album. I don't know why it's all scuffed up, but I hate the cover. Horrible cover. Not a great photo either, but I love her. Her first album, which I regret every day, but I did sell it back on one of my moves, because one of my moves I was like so desperate for money. And this album is good. I remember her saying that the first album, Undiscovered, was what the producers wanted, and this second album, The Redemption, is what she wanted. And the second album is messy. It's not bad messy, but it's very all over the place, and it's really about experimentation, which is cool. Some of the songs are good. Some of the songs are very skippable. The first album, beginning to end, impeccable. Oops, I Did It Again. Favorite song on here is Can't Make You Love Me. And I will say, I catch myself singing Dear Diary like a lot, like in my own head a lot. Betty Who, I have seen her live like 4 times. She's great. She's, so my previous boyfriend and I, we never had a song, but we had Betty Who. And so after our breakup, I had to unfollow her. So Betty, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. Emma Bunton. She is my least favorite Spice Girl, and I still love her. Like, I love all the other ones so much more that, like, her music is good, but it's not for me. This pop album is like, this is what you would expect a Spice Girl to release, right? So it's good. There are, like, good songs on there. This one's actually really good. The song Maybe is, like, my favorite Emma Bunton song. And the pictures inside this one are, like, pretty slay, to be honest. You can't stream them anywhere. Her third and fourth album I did not love. And I'm not saying that they're not good. I just didn't love them. So, okay. Oh, we're getting the good stuff. Okay, so this is Sarah Connor. You know, kind of like, what's that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? But so essentially this is this German pop star who was trying to make her big crossover to America. And so what she did is she compiled like 11 songs. I mean, some of them are new, but like it was mostly a compilation of songs that she released in Germany, like her best songs. And so the only single that she released here is called Bounce. It's so good and it's so catchy, and she samples in the song French Kissing. She samples da 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 Tom's Diner. And it's funny because I heard that song before I heard Tom's Diner, and I was like, hey, they stole this. Speaking of like just not well known, Sarai, she was pitched as the female Eminem, right? Because she's a white female rapper. Honestly, this goes hard. Like, this album goes hard, and like I can't tell you how many times I've looked up just to see, did Sarai Howard ever release a follow-up? And she did not. She like went into some, I looked it up in detail a couple years ago. She went into like a music for children in poverty or something. It was something good. She did something good in the educational spectrum of music. And I was like, that's amazing. She's using her talent in a different way. But that's actually a really great album. Um, my friend actually just gave me this only a few months ago because I love Mandy Moore's albums after she got out of her record deal. So, I mean, this is Silver Landings, In Real Life, which I don't have here because my favorite CDs are in my car. I think I already said that. J-Lo, this album was my introduction to J-Lo. I wasn't around for On the Six. I mean, I was here, but I didn't know of her. But this one, it got me. Love Don't Cost a Thing. I remember watching that music video when I was a child, and I was just like obsessed. And then she says the F word in Play, and as a little middle schooler, I was like done. Elementary school. Pink, Can't Take Me Home. I didn't know about this. I didn't listen to it, right? I already told you. Yeah. You know. Okay, speaking of Pink, my favorite Pink song ever is on this album. And there is a music video, but I don't think the music video does that song justice. And so it's track 5 called 90 Days featuring Robble. I got chills even just saying it. I have a personal story about it, but maybe I'll leave it out. Taylor Swift, 1989. Great album. I feel like the Swifties talk so much about Taylor, I have nothing more to add. I didn't listen to this until after she died, and oh my god, my favorite Amy Winehouse song is on here. It's You Sent Me Flying. Spice Girls, this was my first cassette tape. My first CD was not this, but yeah, Naked was my favorite song. This was my sober album. I feel like this is probably Avril Lavigne's least known album. But actually, I don't know if that's true. I don't think her album after got a lot of recognition either. I actually didn't even listen to that one. But this one made a huge impact, and I saw her twice live promoting this album. Once with Kesha. Head Above Water was about her Lyme disease, and it came out right when I was getting sober, and it was about me getting sober. I have so many copies of this. I have like 2 cassettes and 3 CDs. Don't know why. I just kept buying them. But Jerry Halliwell was my first favorite singer. So like I said, when I had the cassette, I was immediately drawn to Ginger Spice, which is so funny because my favorite Spice Girl album doesn't even have her. Lindsay Lohan, we already talked about her, but I actually like this album more than the first one. Like the first one is great. I think it's I think it's a similar instance like Brooke Hogan, where the first album is the producers, the second album is the artist. Because this album is called A Little More Personal, and she does get actually a lot more personal. In the Zone, I've always had a resentment for this album cover. I just feel like she looked so freaking good during this era. And there were so many other choices for album cover. Why did she choose this boring freaking face one? And as we get older and I look back, there is an innocence to it that I appreciate. So I'm less angry, but I mean, she could have chosen a better one. Circus. Some of my favorite Britney songs are on here. Unusual You. And I don't wanna think about, what's that called? It's number 3. Out From Under. I named an art show Out From Under, but then the pandemic hit and I never had it. So this album changed my life. I, at the time, thought they were real lesbians. Actually, they're unfolding. I went down the rabbit hole in the early pandemic and realized Julia is not great for the gay community. Not at all. I'll leave it there. We support Lena, though. We do. Avril Lavigne, her self-titled. I actually don't remember this one right now. Oh, yes, I do. Okay. Hush Hush is my favorite for sure. Melanie C, her second album, not her best. And I think she would agree with that, to be honest. Billie Eilish, that's a great album. I was already kind of at that point where I was like not really buying albums anymore. Pink Funhouse, or sorry, Try This. My eye. Try This. I remember waiting, counting down the days in my freaking middle school notebook, waiting for that CD to come out. Hello, this is me and my little sister. One song on here, Fabulous. Keep your eyes peeled. Yeah, come June, check Spotify. Okay. Jennifer Lopez. Jenny from the Block, All I Have. She says this is her best album. Okay, it's good. It's good. Khalees. I love Khalees. Why have we not... Most of my Khaleeses are in my car. I love Khalees. Okay, this is her dance album, which came after the tumultuous relationship with her old record deal. I feel like the industry did her dirty. But she did put out a new song recently, which is good, Midnight Snacks. I actually really like that song a lot. I listen to it often. Jamie Lynn Spears, I think she signed this when I met her. Super awkward interaction on my behalf. I was nervous, so I started talking about Siri, and she's all, who's that? And I was like, the thing on my phone. Pink, I'm Not Dead. Great album. Who knew? So good. So good. So good. But also, there's a couple songs on there that I also really, really like. I Got Money Now and The One That Got Away. If you haven't heard them, I encourage you to listen to them. Okay, this was my first CD ever. I remember the day I got it. It was my birthday. It came out in January, but I got it in May. And it was my only CD for a while. And I did not mind. Did not mind. So, Victoria Beckham, this is a CD single. So there's only 2 songs and then 2 remixes of those songs. This was for her sophomore album that never came out. A different song that was leaked online called Gone, or there's another title too, but I think most people call it Gone. So good. So good. It should have been a hit. And maybe that's the universe saying, don't release that, because if you do, you'll become a pop star. And she didn't want that. She's talked very much about how she was ready to just move to fashion. And good on her. She knew what she wanted. Hilary Duff. Hilary Duff actually had some really great albums. This album, and then the one that followed, years later, Breathe In, Breathe Out, which I'm surprised I don't have here, because that's not in my car. That might be in my car? I might have sold it. Lover. This was probably I think I have I wouldn't say it's my favorite Taylor Swift album, but I will say I have the deepest connection to this album. Because I do really like Midnights. But I didn't buy it. Khalees. Khalees was here. This one's so good. There's a couple of songs that are a little skippable, if I'm honest. But it's a long CD, so, sometimes that happens. Sometimes they lean into quantity over quality, but there's some solid songs on there. Blindfold Me with their ex-husband Nas, which is kind of weird. Do you ever think about how when you make a song with your partner and then it becomes a hit and then you break up and you have to keep performing it? Or I don't know if she performs it. I don't know if it was a hit. And it looks like Last is my favorite Christmas album, So, thanks for watching. Now I gotta figure out what I'm getting rid of.